And Nick simply describes himself now as a man on a mission. And yeah, mission to do what? Just to stay afloat, just to try and make sense of this mad world, to do good. What's the mission in particular right now?
The mission is to save this country, to save the UK, to save England. That's the mission. That should be everybody's mission at the moment, because I'll tell you what, we're dying and we haven't got much time left to save this great country of ours. That's the mission.
And listen, it's not going to be an easy one to pull off this. Some could say on the topic of missions, some would say is it mission impossible? Can it be done? Given what we have in front of us at the minute, Nick, and I've spent the morning talking about the events of the weekend, about the winter fuel payment cuts, about the open borders, about David Lammy pushing for, and Tobias Ellwood pushing for war in Ukraine. There's so many things that seem to be coming up against this from so many different angles. Where's the best place even to start with this? Where do we even start to begin to take this back?
The first step is we need to say to ourselves and our family and friends that this fight is worth having, because that's a big part of the problem. The amount of people contact me on social media saying there's no point, we're over, we're done, we're through, we're dead already. I'm thinking about leaving the country now. And I'm saying to myself, you sound like a coward. You sound like a traitor. You're not patriotic at all. Stop pretending you are and putting this country down. I don't even think our problems are that big. In the grand scheme of things, are we in the same condition, the same position as Jews in Nazi Germany, as East Europeans when the Iron Curtain fell? We're not. These are big problems, but in the grand scheme of things, these are all fairly easy to overcome if we have one thing, and that's what we're missing at the moment, which is we have no politicians with a backbone. If we can solve that one problem, all our other problems will fall like dominoes over a couple of decades.
You know what? Even in the short term, Nick, as well, one of the big stories over the last few weeks has, of course, been the early release of could be 5,500 prisoners back onto the streets. I think 1,700 were released last Tuesday. Some of those people have already reoffended. Some of them were homeless and they're being put up in hotel accommodation at the taxpayers' expense. A post that you put up on social media, and I heard Ben Habib from Reform say the same thing, that approximately 12% of all criminals in UK jails are foreigners. If we deported them, we could instantly free up 10,000 prison places for British criminals. But yet, I've yet to see that option tabled. Again, maybe is it a lack of spine, a lack of fear of offending people, breaking people's human rights, prisoners' human rights, when they shouldn't have maybe been here in the first place. And when they did come here, then they committed crime and have ended up in jail because of it. That's an easy option. 12%, 10,000 prison spaces, just like that.
And the reason why, you've already given the answer. Why? No spine. No politician in government has the spine. That's a quick, easy win. That's a vote winner if you wanted to be cynical. Free up 10,000 places so we can lock up more British criminals. I want to lock up more British criminals. So let's free up 10,000 places and let's deport 10,000 people who shouldn't be in the country anyway, or were here legally but have spat in our face by being a criminal. Let's just get rid of them. That's an easy win. But they won't do it because they haven't got a backbone.
The other thing is, again, talk. So much talk going on about, securing borders and one thing and another. I saw a post that was put up, I think it was very, very late last night, by the Home Office on the Twitter or the X platform. And it's to do with the appointment of yet another border security commander. So this is a chap called Martin Hewitt, CBE. So he said, "I'm honoured and excited to lead this new and groundbreaking command. I'm under no illusion as to the challenges that lie ahead, but I'm determined we will face them head on." And he's standing there grinning smugly for the camera. I mean, again, this isn't a problem you can just literally solve overnight, but not far off it if you just simply say, well, we're going to stop using the Royal Navy and border force and the RNLI as water taxis. And if we do apprehend people in the middle of the channel, we'll be dumping them straight back over to France. Would that not be at least a big step forward to deal with this problem?
Absolutely. But the problem he faces is a political problem. That's the problem, political. We stopped the Vikings invading. We stopped the Nazis. We stopped Napoleon. We stopped the Armada. We stopped all these people getting it because of the channel. But suddenly we can't stop half a dozen, 50 immigrants on a rubber dinghy coming across. It's because our politicians don't want to stop them. And we need to understand why. And that's because they're scared of the backlash from the woke left, basically. But they're killing us. Not only are we going bankrupt, but it's destroying public trust in all our institutions, all our politicians and government in general. It's going down the wrong path. And that gentleman is smiling. And I know why he's smiling, because there's no expectations of him to fix anything. And he's going to be on a couple of £100,000 a year. I'd be smiling if I got that job.
I know. And you know what? You could do it. You could do that job, but I guarantee he'll do nothing, because all we've had is empty promises. Priti Patel said it, Rishi Sunak said it, Boris Johnson said it, now Keir Starmer saying it, Yvette Cooper saying it, now we have this guy saying it. It's just talk. And as they release these press releases, literally, I would dare say, another dinghy rolls up and lands, and another 50 to 100 people spill out. At some stage, there's 800 to 1,000 people coming in daily. Well, they're telling us verbally what they're going to do. Nothing is actually being done about it. Got to take a little pause now. Sorry, go ahead.
Sorry.
No, I was going to say, you see what you're going to say? If you can, hold it for 30 seconds, right? And when we come back after the short headline break, dump it upon us, please, in its fullness and in all its glory here on TNT, Today's News Talk. Nick, I cut you off, not intentionally or rudely, just before the break there. You were about to launch into a point in counter to what I was saying, so fire, shoot.
The point was, if you think the immigration problem, illegal immigration across the channel is bad today, wait for a couple of months. Because now Germany have closed their borders. Austria is going to be doing the same. So's Holland. Where are all those illegal immigrants going to go? Well, I'll tell you where they're going to go. They're going to go to the most warm, welcoming country in Europe that welcomes them with open arms, that gives them a 4-star hotel, doctor access, dentist access, free money, mobile phone. They're going to be coming here. So let's wait a couple of months and let's see how bad this problem gets, because Europe have seen the light now, and Europe are closing their borders. And hopefully now we're going to have a race across Europe of who's going to create the most anti-immigrant policies. And the ones who create the toughest policies will be the ones with the least problem.
You think this is going to act, it is, but by design as a funnel. So you talk about certain borders closing off, and of course that's going to have a funneling effect. Well, if we can't stop here, we'll go to the next country. If we can't stop there, well, we're only one step away from Britain, and we know it's the land that flows with milk and honey. At least that's the way it's portrayed to anybody that's crossing the English Channel. Is that possibly a move that they're performing in Europe to say, well, we know if we shut the doors in Germany or wherever else, we know that will siphon more people through us towards Britain. Could that be part of the plan?
I don't think so. I don't think they give us any thought whatsoever. The reason why Europe are beginning to do this is because all those politicians in power know they're not going to be in power much longer if they don't get a grip. A lot of the anti-immigrant parties now, are coming second in elections. A lot of these parties now know that they're on the verge of winning an election in Europe. So the elite now are panicking and closing their borders. But that will have that funneling effect. It just wasn't designed to do that. But the people in this country will see what Europe are doing, and they'll demand it. One of the questions I want to ask is, if Germany can close its borders and in the EU, why did we leave the EU? Couldn't we have closed our borders while we're in the EU? Because everyone else seems to be doing it now. And the reason why we couldn't do it then is because the politicians with no backbone. That's the number one problem.
It is. And back to the very first point that you made. So what do we do to get ourselves out of this mess? We need to get ourselves some politicians with cervical vertebrae in their backs instead of jelly. which seems to be there in the place of the spinal column. I want to pivot a little bit towards your turf at Manchester. I find myself strangely, when I know you're coming on the show, I always browse the Manchester Evening News the night before that you're coming on. Interesting publication, but I'm looking at this in terms of the work that you do as well. Obviously, you're interested in social housing, crime prevention, mental health, everything, all the good stuff. There's an opinion piece being put out here, and the headline reads, "We're being priced out of life's small luxuries," writes the MEN's Jenna Campbell. And it says here, £10 pints, £350 gigs, and £120 football matches. It's all getting a little bit too much. So that's obviously in relation to Oasis concert tickets, football tickets to go and see United or City playing, and of course maybe the price of a night out in the pub. And maybe people say, well, you don't have to spend that money, but traditionally gig going, football matches, going to the pub, these are all part and parcel of Manchester life. But it does seem to be that there is a real squeeze on there, maybe, and people aren't getting out, and the economy's going to suffer. Jobs are going to be lost because these establishments are going to be closed. It has that knock-on effect on people's mental health.
It does. Those three examples are all completely different, so it's hard to explain all three of them. But let's look at £10 pints in pubs in Manchester. It's not as bad as that yet, but it's getting there. It's £7-8 now a pint in Manchester, probably more in the nightclubs. Why is it so expensive? Well, first of all, it's tax. We keep taxing everything. Not only is there tax on alcohol, there's taxes on businesses, there's tax on premises, then you've got rates, you've got council tax, you've got tax on hiring people. All this then goes on the final product to recoup that money to give to the government. That's why we're getting close to £10 pints. Oasis tickets, do you know what? These men have come out of retirement and they want to earn as much money as possible. If you can't afford it, you can't afford it, don't go. But we're being priced out of everything because of the size of the state. We think, the government's going to do this free for us. The government does nothing for free. The government takes money off us and then gives us something back extremely poorly. Poor service, poor products. We need a smaller state, and that will lead to us keeping more of the money we earn, and then we'll have more money to spend what we want to spend it on, instead of giving it the money to then give it to people who are not working hard and are not contributing to society. Let people keep their own money.
There was a comment made about, I'm not going to talk about Oasis here, love them or hate them, but there was an Irish doctor that I had on the show last week, Dr. Jerry Waters. He's an absolute legend. And he was talking about the uproar there's been in Ireland with the lack of availability in the two huge Croke Park gigs that these guys are playing next year. And he said the Irish government have already launched an investigation into consumer pricing and price gouging because of these two Oasis gigs. And still, to this day, they won't look at excess deaths above and beyond the national average that have been going on now for the last 4 years. So they say, Oasis gigs, let's get the inquiry going, but excess deaths and people dying above and beyond, people just don't want to seem to know. And it's the same thing here. The whole bread and circuses thing, don't you think, is still very prevalent these days. And I'm not against people going out and enjoying themselves and spending their money on whatever they want, but very, very much so, most of people's stability seems to be based on, can I go to the pub? Can I go to a gig? Can I go watch the footy? It's a sports keeping me alive. And if you pull the plug on those things, one or more of them, it does send a lot of people into a negative tailspin.
Yeah, I mean, the British government and the Irish government are looking at the Oasis tickets. And that's a great example of, look at the shiny things, don't look at our policies, don't look at how we're doing it, look at the shiny things. And it's an example of them looking at a problem that isn't a problem, that they're going to pretend to fix and fail. But at least no one's now looking at their immigration policy, unemployment, cost of living, how many people are living in poverty. They don't want you looking at that. So they create a made-up problem, which is Oasis ticket prices.
It's great. It's mad that we're even discussing this in the same breath as everything else we're
Yes.
discussing, but it's all part of this mix. Unfortunately, it's all part of the mad mix that we're dealing with at the minute. Nick, we're pretty much up to time in this. This session's flown by like a rocket. I do want to appreciate you coming on again, just talking generally about what it's like in your neck of the woods up in Manchester, of course, and as well as that, what's going on with the state of the country in general. So, Mr. Nick Buckley, big salute to you. I hope you enjoy the remainder of your day.
Did you enjoy that video? I think you did. Come on now, hit that bell, subscribe, comment. Let's build this channel. I need more followers, I need more subscribers. Be part of the journey. See you soon.